Today's episode covers a lot of ground. Our guest, Mairead Cogan, grew up on a farm on the Curlew Mountains where hard work and community were just part of daily life. She went on to build a career around helping people, both through sport and through her own business. And then she did something that brought everything into perspective, 2 volunteer trips abroad that changed how she sees the world. It's an honest conversation with a great guest, and I think you're going to really enjoy this one. So welcome to episode 88 of The Voices of Boyle. Mairead, welcome to The Voices of Boyle. How are you?
Thanks very much, Carlo. I'm good. Thanks for having me on here.
You're very, very welcome. So, Mairead, to start off, I know you grew up on a farm because I was in school with one of your brothers, Shane. So maybe bring us back to those days and tell us what it was like growing up on a farm in the Curlew Mountains.
I grew up on the top of the Curlew Mountains. I'm the youngest of 6, so I have 3 older brothers and 2 older sisters. I grew up on a family farm, so I spent a lot of my time outdoors, like working on the farm. And I suppose back then, when you look at it, it was a relatively small farm. We had maybe 10 to 15 cattle. I suppose in today's terms, that's classed as small anyways. But back then, we would have, probably thinking back, it seemed like a really big farm because we seemed to spend all our time outdoors and working on the farm and doing whatever needed to be done around about the farm and the house and that. We didn't have technology or the machinery that's about nowadays. So everything was pretty hands-on deck when I was growing up. I suppose we didn't have the luxuries that might be around nowadays with, as I said, the technology and the machinery as well.
So what would you say then, like working on a farm, how did that shape your attitude towards hard work and responsibility from maybe a young age?
Yeah, I suppose in one way I didn't look at it as work. Like, it was not that it was expected of us either, but it was just something we done. Like, we lived on a farm. You got up in the morning, you helped feed the animals, whatever needed to be done, went to school, came home, you were out again, whatever needed to be done on the farm. In the summertime, you'd be baling, you'd be going to the bog, saving turf. It would have never seen it as work. It was just my kind of a day,
And did you like it? Like, okay, I know you said there, you were born into that, so it was kind of like there was no other kind of way of life. But did you actually like it?
Oh, I loved it. Yeah, I did. I loved it. I'm a very outdoorsy person as it is, and obviously that's shaped from my upbringing and my childhood. I was always outside, but I spend nearly, even now, I spend all my time outside. When I was growing up as well, you were sure to find me outside in the fields, or my dad was a mechanic, and he had a garage beside the house. So in the evening times when he'd be home from work, he might be out fixing a car or fixing a tractor or doing something for a neighbour or making something like. And I always remember I'd either be outside on the farm or in the garage lying under a tractor, or my head stuck in under a bonnet, and my poor mum would be at the back door shouting, "Mairead, will you come in and give me a hand, get the dinner ready, or clean the sitting room or clean your bedroom?" And I was like, "No, I'm too busy, I'm out here."
Yeah.
Much preferred outside jobs than inside jobs.
And was there any specific job on the farm you really liked?
No, in general, I loved it all. In the summertime as well, back then, summers seemed like there were summers. We actually had good weather. You'd
3
have
months of the summer.
Yeah, exactly. You'd have a couple of days where there was no rain, or a few weeks in a row where there was no rain. So back then we saved hay, which is quite rare now because of the weather. And my dad had a square baler. Again, he was one of very few that had a square baler at the time. So saving the hay during the summer, when I think back to my days, that would probably be one of the standout ones as well. Very hands-on, square bales, you're pulling, dragging, lifting, throwing. And I guess when I was growing up as well, there was a massive community spirit where I grew up on the Curlews. Like all our neighbours, we all helped each other. So like that, during the summertime, we'd be saving the hay and you'd be glad to see the neighbour coming to give you a hand, and vice versa. We'd help our neighbours saved the hay as well. And I suppose as well with then kind of towards coming into the springtime, we'd have the animals, the cows calving. And if there was a cow calving, you might be sent off down to get a neighbour to come and give a hand. And at the time when I was growing up, it was the main N4 that I lived on. So it wasn't safe for me, obviously, to be running down the road on my own at a young age. So I'd be taken off down the fields and jumping the ditches and falling into the drains to go down and get the neighbours. Maybe you might be told, oh, go down and get Thomas Kennedy and ask him to come up and give us a hand, the poor late Thomas. Or it might be Johnny Battles or the late Jody Higgins either. Like, you run down to the house and you'd be in a panic by the time you'd get there. A cow calving! And you'd be totally out of breath as well. And, that was, I guess, as well, when you think about it, life was a lot simpler back then. It wasn't a case of pick up the phone. We didn't have mobile phones. Actually, we didn't even have a house phone. I can remember when we got our house phone installed into the house. So it wasn't like you could just pick up the phone and ring and ask for help. Or back then as well, there was one car, generally only one car in a house. So everybody living in the house didn't have a car. So it wasn't like you could just take into the car and race down the road and in a panic looking for help.
And isn't it mad like how we think of that now? And as you said, there were a lot simpler times, and there certainly were. But how did people survive? Like, we think, like modern days, we'd say you could never survive like without a phone, without a car. People did. That's how they did.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It just, when you think back, it genuinely, it did just seem like life was a lot simpler. And it seemed like we had a lot more time on our hands as well. Like, I think we do a lot of running and racing nowadays as well. But even though I say I was working on the farm and all, like, we had great times growing up. Like, there was 6 of us now. My sisters and older brother would have been in college when I was younger growing up. They had started going to college and that. But, it was great times. We made up our own fun on the farm and our own games. Like, I always remember we had over the fields, and there was a little kind of a granary with stones, and there was one particular phone, and it was shaped in, or a stone, sorry, in the shape of a phone. And we used to be playing a game of house, and you'd be playing that you ring your friend off this stone that was in the shape of a phone, like, and just simple little things like that. I actually, to be honest, I don't remember, playing games or with toys inside. I genuinely was outside the whole time.
Yeah.
The whole time I spent outside.
And then, Mairead, if you had to just pick one memory, or your earliest memory maybe, of life on the farm that you can remember, of course, that sticks out, is there one?
Yeah, there's a few, but I suppose the very one that I would remember the most is, again, it goes back to a cow that we had calving one time, and I was only very, very small at the time, like maybe 4 or 5 at the time. And the vet was there, and some of our neighbours were there, and my older brothers, and we had to help the cow. So we had the calving jack out, and we were helping the cow. And I thought, oh, this is great. And I was in behind. There was maybe 3 people, behind the cow, helping the cow pull the calf from the cow. And I remember, I think it was one of my neighbours at the time was like, "Oh, Mairead, come in here and give us a hand." So I thought this was great. Like, and I was there and pulling with a rope and everything and giving it my all. And then they didn't tell me when the cow was born, and they all let go, and I just go flying back into the back door of the shed. But like that. And again, I learned how to drive on the farm. When I was growing up, you'd be put on the tractor into the field like that, going around picking up the square bales of hay. Back then as well, tractors weren't, the big massive machines that they are nowadays. We had a little 35, a Massey Ferguson 35, and I'd be sitting up on this, and my dad or my brothers had put it into gear for me, and, first gear in low gear. And at the time, I probably thought it was flying along, but I'd say it was probably going about 5 miles an hour. But that's where I learned how to drive, and my brothers would be going behind me, and Dad would be in front baling the hay, brothers be behind me walking, I'd be driving the tractor, they'd be throwing the bales into the trailer as I'd be coming, me thinking I was flying it, like with a big trailer behind me, but barely moving.
Yeah.
But those kind of memories in general, like working on the farm, learning how to drive, caring, looking after the cattle and all that kind of thing as well.
And then, Mairead, has the family farming business, has that continued or has it died off?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It has continued. Yeah, my dad still farms and my two brothers still farm as well. So it's continued on. And my nephews as well and nieces, they're all into farming as well, and it's great to see it continuing on as well and, keeping the tradition and the name alive as well.
Of course.
And it's lovely to see the kids, my nieces and nephews growing up and, working and doing jobs. And I think as well, I suppose when I was growing up, I was more like that. I was more hands-on. So I would have learnt a lot more from being hands-on than I would reading or studying a book. And you can see it as well in the younger generation as well. Like some of them aren't, everybody is different. They're not all into technology and learning and studying and academics. So yeah, it's great to see farming continuing because it can get it gets tough, especially nowadays. Like back in the day when I was growing up, you probably were able to make a living out of farming alone, an income, and not nowadays.
No, it's kind of so hard now. This new Mercoser deal or something as well is playing havoc.
Yeah, and like again, you have to have another job for an income. So farming isn't the kind of leisure we'll say that it was when I was growing up. Like farming nowadays is hard work. It's not.
And that's because of all the bureaucracy and stuff, red tape that they're implemented.
Exactly. Yeah, big time. Yeah.
Okay, so school time. You went to school in Boyle.
My favourite time. I did, yeah. I went to school in Boyle. Went to Squelin and Angle Nefa in Boyle.
I can never pronounce that.
Yeah, it takes a second to get the ending of it. All right. To be fair, I loved my time in school. It mightn't have reflected at the time when I was in school, but I did enjoy school. I suppose that when you're in school and you're in the moment, and I guess it's the same with children nowadays as well. They all say they don't like school. I suppose you don't like to be doing something, that you're told to do or you have to do this. You want to be, I suppose, a bit more freer. But when you look back, like I know my granny and my parents would always say, "Oh, they're the best days of your life." And at the time, I'd be like, "This is like
agree.
One of my worst days." What are you on about? Like, but when you look back, it definitely, they were great days. Like you had no worries about anything. Or
I think as well, even going back to my own days, like I think because we had no internet, because we had no mobile phones, we didn't know about any of that stuff. So to go to school was to almost in a way get you away from home, But I think this day and age, it's the opposite. Going to school represents no device time, no screen time.
Yeah.
For a lot of, not everyone, of course, but I think so. The hatred, if you like, of school time has a completely different meaning for obviously not liking school in our day, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Like in our day, you would have went to catch up with your friends, and, you might have been watching Home and Away the evening before and you'd be going in chatting about what happened in Home and Away. Whereas nowadays, if they're probably not even watching Home and Away anymore, but whatever they're watching, they just pick up the phone and send a Snapchat to their friend and, talk about it then. So it's kind of, well, what we talk about tomorrow in school.
Sure. So, Mairead, you mentioned growing up on the farm, there was a great sense of community. So did you also have that sense of community in school with friends and that in Boyle itself, in the town?
Yeah, absolutely. When I was in school, you'd be bringing friends to your house for birthday parties and vice versa and that. Then I guess when I went to secondary school, I joined the football team in secondary school. So when I was growing up, Boyle didn't have a ladies' football team, but sport and mainly GAA was a massive part of my life growing up. I would have always been at my two brothers, Brian and Kieran, when they were playing football, soccer and Gaelic, always at their training sessions, matches, everything. I don't know, did the managers and the other players enjoy to see me coming or hate to see me coming, but I'd be standing behind the goals and kicking the football back out to the lads. And, it was a massive part of when I was growing up as well. But because Boyle didn't have a ladies' team, when I started playing in the secondary school, then I joined Ballinameen GA. So I was in the closest club to me. And massive, community spirit. I suppose when I moved, not that I moved out of Boyle, but when I moved kind of with my social side through the football to Ballinameen as well, small rural area, you can really see the community pulling together as well to get things done, and great little club.
Yeah. And so then obviously you mentioned there about how big you're into sport and all that.
Yeah.
So maybe just tell us a bit about that. You also mentioned that you had an injury, or you broke your leg or ankle, was it, or both?
Yeah, both.
Right.
So after I was playing football with Ballinameen, I then joined Giva GA in Sligo after I met my now husband Dermot. And I was going out with Dermot for a few years, and then I decided to move and join Giva GA. And in 2019, I broke my leg and ankle playing a football match. The injury itself healed, it was bone material that broke. So the injury itself healed, but I found it was the mental challenge of the injury. At the time, football and sport was basically my life, and I didn't really see anything outside of football and sport. And when you're playing, we trained 3 nights a week and we had a match every Sunday, and that could go on for 8 or 9 months, or if you were lucky and you done well in championship and you were winning, it could go on for 10 or 11 months. So it basically took up your whole life.
Yeah, for
more or less.
3/4 of the year,
Exactly,
more or less.
yeah, it really did. But I suppose from that, when I was growing up as well, with my brothers, we'd be playing football outside, and we had a big street outside our house before you got to the garden, and it was tarmac street, and then we had the gable of the wall. So it was a perfect playing pitch for us, and you'd be kicking the ball against the wall. And for some reason, because I was the youngest, I was always put into goals.
Tradition always stays in
Yeah.
that.
And back then the goals was your jumper just thrown on the ground in 2 spots, and that was the goals. And my brothers, they didn't go easy on me or anything because I was in goals, or they didn't say, "Oh, my younger sister, let's go easy on her." If anything, it was probably the opposite. They went a bit harder on me. So that built a good resilience for me as well, and as I said earlier, my older sisters, Marie and Sharon, and my older brother Brian had started college when I was younger. So I was living more so at home with Shane and Kieran, and I guess growing up with 2 older brothers, when you do build a resilience there, and you get strong both mentally and physically. But no, like that, when I got the injury, as I said, I didn't really see anything outside of football, and I was wondering where was I going to go with my sport and fitness, because sport and fitness and health in general was a massive, and still is a massive part of my life. But back then, it was more the fear. When I went back, when the bones and everything healed and got back to normal, I went back to play. I just found I wasn't the same player on the pitch, both training and in matches.
Was that because of a fear of re-injuring?
Yeah, the fear of re-injuring, even though part of me knew it wasn't going to happen again, because I have a pin going through my ankle and I have a plate in my leg. So I knew those bones themselves weren't going to break again. But I think the biggest thing was when I went into the hospital at the time, my surgeon, after the operation, I'll never forget it, he turned around to me and he said, "Oh, you'll never play football again." And those few little words just, to this day, ring in my head every so often. So the first time I stepped back on the pitch, automatically I was thinking, I'm never going to play football again. So it really was the mental side of it that was the hardest part. But to stay in contact with the club, I was relatively new enough playing with Giva at that time. I didn't know a massive amount of people in the area. I was going out with Dermot at the time, and then we got married. So I was new to the area. I didn't know loads of people in it. I only knew the people that were playing football or involved in sports in Giva. And, to stay involved with the club and stay involved with the girls that were my friends and everything, I decided I'd get into coaching and kind of stay on the sideline and help out managing and coaching. And it was at that stage then that I realized this is what I actually love. It wasn't just about the fitness and, running and the skills and playing football. It was, going through the wins and the celebrations, and and we were well able to celebrate when we did win. But it was also, helping the girls along on the team that when we were defeated or lost a championship final, that you'd bear in mind we had trained, 9, 10, 11 months for this. If you lost a game, it was more the mental side of it. Build yourself back up again, get going. There's always next year, there's the next game. Then you're talking a team sport as well. People, you might fall out with a girl or have grievances with a girl. It's to get over those obstacles as well. And I think my time spent with Giva training and coaching the senior ladies, it was a massive eye opener for me. But I think it really, really made me realize what I loved: sport and fitness and helping people in general. And that kind of stems back as well to growing up and my childhood. Massive, as I said earlier, massive community spirit, helping each other out, on the farm, helping neighbours helping us. We'd be a very close family. We'd support each other, going to matches growing up. Even now, like, we'd go to my nieces and nephews' matches, travelling half the country, going to matches and athletics and everything like that. So, all of that kind of stemmed back to my childhood as well when I was growing up, the support and community aspect of it.
So then obviously, Mairead, snapping the out leg would have been the impetus that caused you then to get into coaching. And from coaching then you got qualifications, and then you started up your own business, Supple Fitness. Or Supple.
Yeah, so I suppose Supple Fitness wraps in nicely too. So my maiden name is Supple, or if you're a local, it's Supple. But if you go on the dictionary and that, it's Supple. So Supple Fitness started then. Now I do still have ambitions to play in Croke Park. So I don't know how I'm going to manage that now that I'm not playing GEA anymore, but I kind of sacrifice it if I can get to a game with some of my nieces or nephews in Croke Park maybe. But so Supple Fitness was started then. And I guess in some ways it's really an extension of how I grew up. Always active, always helping people, with the neighbourhood, supporting each other in the community, family, friends and all of that. But for me with Supple Fitness, it's not just about workouts and fitness. I help guide people through moments that test them both mentally and physically. So test their mind and test their body.
Yeah.
I help people as a whole around their lifestyle, trying to create better habits, better routines, and support something that supports their lives. So I coach fitness classes, and I also do personal one-to-one training and online coaching as well.
Okay, so the online side of things would probably be, I'm presuming, a little on the bigger side than the one-to-ones, or is it mixed?
Yeah, it's kind of mixed,
Okay.
kind of 50-50, but the online is starting to take off greatly now. Again, I suppose pros and cons to social media, but social media is massive out there now. So it's with the help of social media that I can grow my business online and expand to basically worldwide.
Of course, yeah.
Not just kind of stuck to the one area or anything like that. So
yeah. So then, Mairead, were there any early hurdles with starting out with the business? Like, some people might have this imposter syndrome, that you get thinking, oh, what am I at? Or was there a confidence issue with?
Yeah, initially there was, like, your fear, I suppose, is always when you're starting out something new, you're always kind of thinking, well, am I good enough for this, or how am I going to better my competition? So I got coaching, I got trained, I got qualifications in it, I done courses in person, courses online. And I guess the beauty with health and fitness nowadays is you can always upgrade your skills and knowledge. Like, there's loads of courses online that you can do, credited courses through other fitness coaches. So I'm always updating and learning as well myself. But I know as well from when I was growing up, it was always kind of instilled in us that you are good enough, and when we were growing up, you would be you were kind of not left to your own devices, but you would have to figure things out. Which, to be fair, really stands to you now that, I have a business going now as well.
Yeah.
Even the likes of driving a tractor, fair enough, my dad or my brother would have started it and put it into gear, but then you were left to your own devices and kind of figure it out.
Not afraid to fail kind of thing.
Exactly, not afraid to fail. And like that, if you did fail, you just got up and you got on with it and kept going.
Dusted the knees off and
Yeah.
off you go, yeah.
And back then when I was growing up, there probably, I don't know, did I even hear the word failure? It was never really mentioned. It was like, oh no, that didn't work, so we'll do it again, or that didn't work, so we'll do it this way.
Yeah.
And because I was very hands-on growing up, and as I said, in the garage with my father and out on the land and that, you had to figure things out. It wasn't pen and paper stuff. You had to, if you were building a wall, well, yeah, you couldn't put the smaller stone on the bottom, and you learnt that way. So I guess having a business now, all of that stood to me. But yeah, it's to build the confidence both in my business and my service. But again, then that's what I work on as well, is building the confidence in my clients and getting their confidence back and supporting them. Support is a massive thing as well. And accountability, huge. Often that's the biggest thing somebody is looking for, is just someone to keep them accountable.
Yeah. And that can be in all forms of life as well, especially when it comes to your fitness and training and that. It's to be consistent, and as you said, having someone tapping you on the shoulder saying, why weren't you in there today?
Yeah, that's it, exactly, yeah.
So then, Mairead, you made the decision, you set up the business. How did you go about finding your first clients, or how did that come about?
Yeah, so when I started off, I would have got my family and my close friends to help me out. My nieces and nephews are all at ages now where they're big into sports, so I'd be helping those out as well. And I have older nieces and nephews, 18, 16, 14 kind of ages, so they're in gyms and that now as well. So I would be helping them design programs, build programs for a lot of them are athletic based and GA soccer based. So building programs around that and helping out, and going to my own club and offering help and support in the club for teams as well. And started off that way to grow the business and to grow my name, and I suppose to give me the confidence as well to know that I could do this, and that it can work, and if I put the time and effort into it. Yeah.
And were there any mistakes that you made kind of that taught you lessons early on, or did you have the complete luck that you didn't do anything wrong?
No, I think I'd be lying if I said I had no mistakes. I suppose when you're starting out, you're new, and you take on clients, and you're wondering, well, is this the right fit for me? And I guess as you grow and you build your business, you figure that out as well. And again, when you're starting out, you might go down a couple of alleyways, but then you veer into one and you say, oh, well, this one is the one that works perfect for me.
Yeah. And then obviously you're in one of the most competitive industries out there, in fairness.
Yeah.
Did that bother you, in the back of your mind?
No, not necessarily, to be fair, because I think from myself and from Supple Fitness, a lot of what I work at is the human being that's there in front of me. And I don't mean physically in front of me, online as well. And look at their lifestyle. So a lot of the coaching that you see nowadays is based around, lifting heavy weights and fitness in that respect, which is 100%, and that's some of what I do. But my main area is focusing on the lifestyle of my client. And, I might have a busy mum with 3 or 4 children at home, and she's coming to me to say she has no time to herself. Her husband is working when he gets home in the evening. It's dinner time, bedtime, and next thing is the next morning again. So it's just looking at it from an outside point of view. I guess often when you're not stuck in your own world, but when you're in your day to day and you're doing kind of rinse and repeat stuff. You don't really see it any different. So as well, it's nice to have somebody from the outside coming in and giving you tips and pointers on, well, maybe if you can get out for a half an hour of a walk and start that way.
Okay.
Get some time back to yourself, because it's the mental side of it as well. Like, it's not just the physical side. You have to look after your own mental health as well, and your own mindset. And we all need our own time and space as well for each other.
Yeah, because you mentioned there like mindset and how important it is alongside physical training.
Yeah.
So would you take a holistic approach to the whole training session? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't say it's a holistic approach, because I think a lot of people, when they hear the word holistic, they think like, going out and picking leaves or
herbs.
Yeah, exactly.
Herbal teas and stuff.
Yeah, that's it, exactly. But yes, it is a holistic approach. It's looking at the person and their life as a whole, not just one aspect of their life, not just doing workouts or giving them a program and saying, here, that's your program now for 6 weeks, off with you, best of luck with it. That's not my approach. It's constant contact with my client and support for my client, and the accountability is a huge thing as well.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'll put all the links to where people can get in touch with you for that.
Yeah, absolutely, brilliant.
Yeah. So let's move on then to the reason I contacted you mainly was because of your not only your recent volunteer trip to Uganda, but you also have been to Kenya a couple of years prior to that.
Yeah.
So bring us back to 2022, or was it earlier than that?
Yeah, so it was 2022 I went to Kenya. So it kind of all came about. My brother-in-law, Ollie, went to Zambia in 2018. And it was when he returned after his volunteer trip, and he was telling us the stories and showing us the photographs and everything like that. Something kind of just clicked with me, and something inside me said, I want to go and experience and see this for myself and try and help, people in Africa as well. So I was meant to go in 2019 then, and COVID hit. So everything was pushed off until it was 2022. So I went to Kenya in 2022 with Plant the Planet Games, which is organised by Self-Help Africa in collaboration with Warriors for Humanity, which was founded by a Galway man, actually, Alan Cairns. And at the time, we had to raise €10,000 each. So that was a massive feat. It was my first kind of thing was, how am I going to raise that money? But I put my mind to it, and I said, right, let's go and let's do this. Let's raise the money. So the idea behind Plant the Planet Games is that each person raises 10,000 or more in the outlook to be able to plant 1 million trees that year. So I'm not sure the figures at the moment. It's Plant the Planet Games is happening since 2022. So I think it's like over 3 million trees that they've been able to plant. So we went out to Kenya and we planted some fruit trees for food and income for the families and the farms out there, and planted trees for shelter as well, again for the families. And if families had farm animals, the trees were for shelter for the animals. And it was just a massive eye-opening experience. You can see ads on telly and you can see stuff on telly, but to actually see it with your own eyes, I suppose when you see it on telly, you don't really believe that it's real. And when we were out in Kenya, we visited farms and homesteads, and I suppose that was something that really drew me to it at the time. Was I had the connection with the farming background as well. And you're going out to a farm or a homestead in Kenya, and they might not have water or electricity, and their farm is one cow and one goat, and they're minding that one cow and one goat. And if they don't have water, they might have to walk a couple of kilometers every day to go and get water. Simple things like that we take for granted here. Just turn on the tap and you get your glass of water or whatever it is. And it was just a huge eye opener. Looking the houses built with timber and with clay. Often they didn't have chimneys, so they'd have an open fire inside in the middle of the house, where they would put a pot or a saucepan over the fire to cook a dinner. and then obviously in turn that's filled up with smoke. So when I was in Kenya in 2022, we went to the homesteads and put in chimneys in the houses as well. So we worked hands on with the locals, which was really good. So you're teaching and you're showing and you're training, so that they can continue it on themselves, and that the younger generation as well can continue it on as well.
And did you find it really tugged on the heartstrings?
Oh, massively. Like my first trip, so I went to Uganda as well after that, but my first trip to Kenya, we came home, it was early December when we landed back, and I think that, to be honest, was the hardest part, landing back home, and Christmas was everywhere. It was landing into Dublin Airport and there's Christmas trees, Christmas lights, and everybody is talking about presents and getting the turkey and getting the ham, and I kind of, part of me was kind of going, God, like, this really doesn't matter. If you don't have turkey on Christmas Day, or your ham, or your 20 types of different potatoes that you're going to have, it really doesn't matter. And yes, presents are lovely, and we can show our appreciation getting somebody gifts and everything, absolutely. But at the time, because it was so raw and fresh with me, that was the biggest struggle coming back at Christmas time.
That was the Ugandan trip just gone, was it? Or
both,
okay.
Yeah.
So you've come back at Christmas time on both
trips.
So you're literally going from the reality of a third world kind of a country, and coming back then to people giving out that they don't have enough time.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. And like I went back, I was lucky enough then, the end of last year, so November 2025, I was lucky enough to get the opportunity to go with the same organisations again, but this time it was to Uganda. And again, we visited schools over there and teach sports and GAA to the schools. We had some musicians travelling with us, so we played music. And in Africa, song and dance is a big thing. They love song and dance and sport. We were playing games with the kids in the school, and you see the children running around in their bare feet. And you have to think as well, like, some of these kids could have walked 10 kilometres to school that morning and then walk another 10 back home that evening. But I never seen happier people in all my life, and to us that have so much here in our lives, when you think of it, how little they have, but they're so, so happy. Like, they had smiles from ear to ear. It's just amazing. And they really show you how to live life, and when we came home and it was Christmas time, and you're kind of looking at all the material stuff, I suppose, and you're kind of going, this doesn't really matter. Once you have your health, that's the main thing. Exactly. And appreciate what you do have around you as well. And it was just two amazing opportunities.
And then, Mairead, for the two trips, the Kenyan trip and the Ugandan trip, what differences stood out between the two? Obviously there'd be different environments and different projects or whatever, but was there anything fundamentally that stood out that was majorly different?
I suppose in the first trip, when I was going, I was a little bit apprehensive. Like, I didn't really know what was ahead of me. I somewhat knew what to expect from, having talked with my brother-in-law, Ollie, and I was lucky enough that Ollie was on both trips with me, so I had somebody close to me as well, because there is times you're going to bed that night and there was people on that trip that would literally bawl their eyes out crying, falling asleep because of what they've seen the day before, or during the day. Both trips were different, Kenya, Uganda, but at the end of the day, I suppose the reason I went back to Uganda was because I seen the difference that we were making to the community and to the people out there, and planting the trees and providing an income and sustainability for the communities. So I guess my return to Uganda was, I knew the work I was doing and the money that I was raised, and very grateful to everybody that contributed in any little way at all to the fundraising, because it really, until you kind of see it for your own eyes, it really does make a massive difference to the families and the schools and the communities out there. And again, similar to here and when I was growing up, community, they work together out there as well. You know, you might have an avocado tree and I might have, a coffee tree, and they work together. They share kind of what they have as well, and there's no bickering or anything between them. They just massive community spirit out there.
And then was there a particular moment in either our trip, but was there, let's go with the Ugandan one that's just recent, was there a moment that kind of stopped you in your tracks and had the same kind of impact and, your first time in Kenya in that trip did?
Yeah, the Uganda trip, we were in a school, Simba Wolfhounds, in a school one day, and this little girl, Magda, she came up and she was only 4 now. She didn't have massively great English at the time, and she came up to me and just, I don't know, for some reason, just totally clung to me, wrapped her 2 arms around my arm and just stayed with me for the day. She used to always be pulling at my arms to lift her up and carry her. So I would carry her around and we'd be playing like horsey, or she'd be on my back and we'd be running around and playing with the other kids, her friends as well. But anytime I'd let her down, then she'd want me to pick her up again.
Yeah.
And that just shows the love and the care and the attention that, we were able to give these children as well. Because I guess out there, a bit like when I was growing up, you were working all the time as well. But I suppose in Kenya, they probably don't have, obviously they don't have the luxuries that we had growing up, but they would work very hard as well. So children growing up in their own community, they would be expected as well to walk to the well. Now, I mean, children at 6, 7, 8 years of age walking to the well to get water. That well might be miles away, so they could genuinely be gone half the day. So I suppose the care and the love, and like that evening, then I was leaving, and it literally broke my heart when I was leaving, having to say goodbye and hop back on the jeeps to leave. Because maybe if I return back, I might meet this girl again, but the chances are I won't. And, having spent a day, and we returned the second day to the school as well. And she just recognised me and came running straight up and straight into the arms, like as if I had known her for 3 or 4 years, know. So it genuinely was heartbreaking having to leave the school that day.
As you said, like, you go over there and you do great work and all that, but then you can just hop on the plane and you're back home to the comforts that we know no different.
Exactly, yeah.
And it is, as I said to you at the start, it is a very, to go to somewhere like Africa or one of these places that are very undernourished, life is very difficult. It really grinds you.
Oh,
and until
completely.
you can, as you said, you can see everything on the news and all this sort of stuff, but until you feet in the ground, until you hold the hands of these little girls and boys, and you hear the stories, I think it's really important. I think just to get yourself grounded, as you said.
Yeah.
You
definitely. When I came back from the first trip in Kenya, you really appreciate what you have here, and I suppose we take for granted a lot of things that we have here as well. Like, one of the things would be, I wouldn't spend near as long in the shower as I would have before that, because I've seen, the lack of water and everything in Kenya that time when I was there. And simple little things, like, people listening might laugh and think, sure, that's silly, like brushing your teeth and leaving the tap running as you're brushing your teeth. Like, I'd always turn the tap off.
Yeah.
And I know, like, it goes back again to my childhood. I remember your parents might be shouting down from the kitchen, going, you turn off that tap, don't be wasting the water. But again, I suppose it has similarities to, we say, my grandparents growing up, and even my parents, when they'd be talking and reminiscing, and they'd be we'd come home from school and you might be given out like whatever happened at school or whatever, and your parents or my granny might turn around and go, aren't you lucky you got the bus to school? We had to walk to school in our bare feet."
Yeah.
And that's still the case in Kenya. When you think back, like, my granny's time, we'll say,
Yeah.
whatever that would be now, 100 or more
It's
odd
still,
years ago. And
still a big population of the world would
yeah,
have
absolutely,
that.
yeah.
So, any plans for a future trip? Would you rule it out, or
Oh
you
no,
wouldn't?
I definitely wouldn't rule it out. Absolutely no, I wouldn't rule it out. As I said, the fundraising is the biggest thing. It's an awful lot of money, but at the end of the day, it's money that goes really, really far in Kenya and Uganda and Zambia, where Self Help Africa visited as well. But no, definitely wouldn't rule it out. It could happen again
Yeah.
in the future.
So if, Mairead, that younger version of you growing up on the farm in the Curlew Mountains and following your brothers to GA matches could see you now, what would surprise her the most? Would she think that you're on the right path, or is this like, what the hell are you at, Mairead?
No, I think if my younger version of me was to see me now, I think it'd be pretty clear that I'm on the right path. From having grown up, as I said, in the countryside on a farm, I was always outdoors. 90% of the time you'll find me outdoors now. I live on a farm, so I'm married Dermot, a farmer, so I'm still out farming as well. It's not new to me, and it's something that I love doing. Helping people in the community, in the local area, through the GA clubs, through events. I think the younger version of me would say, wow, she's almost landed on her feet. It's exactly how I would see her.
Great. Yeah, you've kept to the roots, as this.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So, a COVID memory. I always ask this. Have you a memory that stands out for you during the COVID years?
I don't necessarily have a memory as such. I just kind of remember COVID times as, yes, they were extremely hard for people. People lost loved ones. We lost neighbours and that as well. People lost loved ones that you couldn't visit, who might have been sick in hospital or in a nursing home, and you couldn't visit them. That was extremely difficult for people. And the same, like if, people having children, newborn babies, and, they met their grandparents or family members through the kitchen window. Like when you think back, it's just crazy what was going on. But I suppose one thing I would say about COVID was it slowed everybody down again, and it I suppose made people realise their priorities and what's important to them, which I guess stems back to family, friends, and community. We didn't seem to be running and racing as much. A lot of people obviously were out of work at the time, but I think we explored our own area a lot more. People were out walking and, up fields and climbing mountains and stuff that they probably necessarily didn't have time for that before. So I guess slowing things down was a massive thing with COVID. And at times, not that I ever want COVID to come back, because there was terrible times during COVID, but if anything we took from COVID, I would say it was the fact that, take time to slow down and appreciate what you do have around you.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. So, Boyle, modern day Boyle, I just want to get your thoughts on it. What do you think of Boyle in 2026 as compared to maybe 20 years ago?
I suppose, Boyle, I worked in Londas on the Crescent during secondary school and college. So, I had a great time then working, and you'd be chatting to everybody, and, people would be in and out the whole time, and it seemed really busy. The town in general seemed really, really busy. Now we have a lot of vacant businesses in the town and empty businesses around the town, which is sad to see. I'd love to see Boyle continue with the community spirit that's there and work together, and the people and the businesses in Boyle area, and try and create more opportunities for a younger generation that are growing up, that they can stay around the town, that they don't have to be going abroad or having to go to the big cities, that we can create opportunities in the town, in our own town as well, for the younger generation.
Yeah, it's important because I don't think there's many towns in Ireland that weren't affected economically through the years.
Yeah.
I think COVID was the hard one that finished a lot of things. But yeah, I think it's, we have to give it time, I suppose, and hopefully it gets back on its feet.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because it was a roaring trading town.
Oh, big time, yeah.
Even when we were young, it was, way, way more vibrant. But such is life. I want to ask you the time capsule question, which I love asking because it's interesting to get people's answers on this. So if you could preserve just one thing from present day Boyle, Mairead, and put it in a time capsule that'll be opened in 100 years from now so that future generations could experience it, what would that be? It could be a person, thing, memory, anything, that it's just preserved for future generations.
Ooh, that's a tricky one. I guess one of the big things in Boyle is the Boyle Arts Festival, and to preserve that going forward, creativeness, art, drama. If we could, put some events that have happened through the years with Boyle Arts Festival and put them in a time capsule and come back in years to come and have a look through them. Like, I'm sure, there'd some great characters there, and we had some great performances through Boyle Arts Festival as well, bands and everything coming in through the town. So if you could preserve that and put it in a time capsule, I'm sure when it'll be opened up in many years to come, people looking at it will be wondering what in the name of God is going on in Boyle.
Yeah, that hasn't that answer hasn't come in so far for whoever I've asked that question before.
Yeah.
So it's a good one, because the Arts Festival in Boyle, as most people know, is probably one of the best in the country.
Absolutely,
if not the best.
Yeah,
considering the size and all that.
Yeah,
and I think it's definitely one of the longest too. So it is really, it's so important to the town's history.
And like when you're about the town, there's such a great buzz that time of year in the summer around the town. There's so many people about, and you'd be talking to somebody and they could be from Germany or Spain, they could be from anywhere, and they're coming to Boyle for the Arts Festival. They've came before and they're coming back. Like it's amazing to see it.
Exactly. So before we wrap it up, is there anything that we haven't talked about that you'd like to mention, or did we cover everything?
I think we covered everything fairly well, I think.
Yeah. Well, we'll before, as I said, I'll put the links, but where can people get in touch with you if they're looking for some from coaching? Yeah,
so they get me on Facebook or Instagram at Supple Fitness.
Oh, perfect. I'll put those up on the link and the post anyway. So
brilliant.
Thank you very much, Mairead. Really enjoyed the chat. I wish you all the best in both business and future volunteer.
Amazing.
projects.
Thanks a million, Carlo.
Welcome.
Thank you.